Right, we're here now for the confirmation hearing for the Chief Fire Officer. So if I could ask the Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman. Really delighted to introduce Glyn Loosney to you today. Glyn's been with Staffordshire Fire and Rescue since 1996. Almost everything I've had to do over 20 years of local politics has involved watching Glyn progress, always with exceptional professionalism and attention to detail. And in the last few years, the way he has supported Rob Barber as Chief Fire Officer and really represented Staffordshire Fire and Rescue on the local and national stage has been really credible. We had quite a robust, well, more than a robust process actually, some big hitters on a panel for Glyn's final interview. He did exceptionally well. So I couldn't be more comfortable with presenting him to you as my preferred candidate for Staffordshire Fire and Rescue going forward. Chairman, I'm not going to say much more because Glyn is more than capable of speaking for himself, and no doubt you've got some questions for him. So, with your permission, shall I? Well, I'll pass back to you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Right, yeah, as you would expect, Glyn, we do have some questions for you. So I will start with the question. What are your personal and professional strengths, and how will these help you in your transition into the role of Chief Fire Officer?
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. Great questions in terms of the personal aspect. I'll reflect on that first. And I think probably one of the strengths around that is my own self-awareness and actually my own caring and passion for Staffordshire as a county. I am born and bred in the Staffordshire Moorlands. I live there. I've brought my family up there, and it's very much my sort of background is set on traditional, strong family values. I've also got a background in sport from a very young age. So those qualities of team player, being loyal, hard work, are fundamental personal values that I've carried into my professional career. As the Commissioner said, I've been in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service now since 1996. And I've taken my time to progress and work at every single role in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, and I've enjoyed that. And that's allowed me to continue to learn and develop, and I think that's been another personal strength that's tipping into the professional one, because I've been privileged to work with some fantastic people in the organisation, and there still are very many. Past and present colleagues have helped to develop me. I think that knowledge as well around the stakeholders, the communities, the local councillors within Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent has really helped to equip me for this position as the Chief Fire Officer, because I know very much about the people, the population, and certainly from Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Services perspective, I really understand the risk profile that we have here in Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent and how that's changed over the years. In terms of a bit more of a personal insight, I've done various psychometric testings throughout the career progression, and I really find it fascinating when you do take the time to reflect back and work with psychologists as well, because it does give you that better understanding around the requirements of leadership at this level. And so they tell me that I am emotionally connected, driven, highly resilient, although self-aware enough to know that I cannot be on top form all of the time. But I'm fiercely loyal, and I've got a passion for working with people. And again, I think that links back to the team player aspect, which always attracted me to a role in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service. Just finishing with the professional bit then to the question, Chair. I've always, as I said, been hugely committed to the learning, and this service has been really good to me. It's meant that I've been able to develop academic attainments in industrial relations and human resource management. I've learnt very recently with the Cabinet Office about leading collaborative organisations across government. So huge opportunities, and I've always been passionate around the partnership work, the technical fire safety and the prevention agenda. But over the years, I've managed to deliver many areas of work around transformation and operational response too. And I've been operating as a principal officer at executive level since 2015, privileged enough to work under 3 different chief fire officers, and I've taken really great confidence in working with each of those, who are all very different. And then for the last 5 years, I've been the deputy chief fire officer, and again working with the current chief, who's really put the trust in me to get on and deliver service and help to run the whole organisation to free up capacity for them to work more outwardly. And the final bit of the question, and I will pause then, is that outward-looking side of things, because I'm very conscious that only working in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service may have its limitations. So again, if I go back to 2015 when I became a principal officer, it was at that point that I've really taken steps to work on national agendas for the Fire and Rescue Service. And that has seen me working for the National Fire Chiefs Council on lead issues such as smoke detection, areas of prevention, industrial relations. I worked at a national level for many years on the fire and health agenda and really brought that locally. And as we'll know, the chief fire officers helped to continue that by developing some strong partnerships. And more recently, over the last few years, I've been appointed as the National Secretary for the Fire Leaders Association, which allows me to represent a team of chief officers across the UK. And it means that I'm the signatory and lead on things like negotiations on pay, terms, conditions, and it gives me a seat on the fire reform agenda in the ministerial group too. So it allows me to bring all of that national learning, one for myself, my own development, to bring it into Staffordshire, but equally it allows me to put Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service on the map at a national level, something which I think is really important for this fantastic fire service that we have here in Staffordshire. I'll pause there, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. I absolutely, that was a good whistle start through your career there, and also I appreciate the comments with regards the personal side. So I think collectively, I think that was very thankful for the way you responded to that. Councillor Dean.
Thank you. Good morning, Glenn. And thank you for putting yourself forward for this and wanting to be our Chief Fire Officer. Big role, big responsibility. My question is in a couple of parts. So it's about the key priorities that you see over the next 12 months. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge there? But also, what are the main, maybe 3 key areas that you intend to work on, that you feel you need to spend your time on?
Thank you, Carol. So in terms of those sort of key challenges over the next 12 months, it feels to me that we're actually entering a really a difficult period, actually, of uncertainty. And we are used to that in the public sector to some degree. And I'm very much a pragmatic idealist. I understand that sometimes you cannot change everything. But what we've now got coming around simultaneous changes around public sector reform, we've got governance changes obviously affecting the Commissioner's role and the design of a new police, fire and crime board, which will be a brand new model of fire and rescue authority governance, not seen before in the UK, will add significant uncertainty and challenge to the fire and rescue service. I would add to that, we have funding uncertainty and funding pressures, which again comes at the same time, and this is the third one, is operational demand for Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service is increasing. So we've seen a 20% demand in operational incidents at the same time as constraints on resources. So all of those pose unique challenges, which I'm really keen to get involved and play a part in leading the service through that. And in terms of those sort of key areas in responding to that, well, one of the key things that I need to do is ensure that there's a real clarity of vision within the service around this environment that we're now operating in, to ensure that we are as strong and as smart and as fit as we can be for whatever those future challenges, and I think agility is key to that. So there will be a focus from me internally on the staff, and that is providing that vision that actually, we've always said in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, we want to make Staffordshire to be the safest place to be, and that I totally agree with and will continue. But I think that we can do something to make the service respond better in terms of prevention, responding to incidents, and the built environment to save more lives than ever. But inclusive within that vision is something about protecting the well-being of the staff within the service, because they need to feel psychologically safe. They need to understand the vision so that we are better able then to react and support any external changes, whether that be future increase in operational demand as a result of climate change, more wildfires and flooding that we're going to, uncertainty around the change of governance and what that will mean to people's roles. So these are all hugely significant, and of course the funding pressure as well, because that no doubt will lead to further programmes of required transformation. We want to continually modernise the service, but equally we have to make the budget balance. So big challenges there. But by introducing that vision, what we're going to see if I was appointed successfully as the Chief Fire Officer is very quickly I'm going to keep building and developing those trusted teams that can perform really at a high level. And it's founded really on every staff member at every level, no matter whether they're firefighters or fire support staff, understanding that what they'll get is 3 requirements from me, and that is to champion a culture of safety, because we mustn't ever be complacent about safety in this role. And I'm sure I can perhaps talk about the operational competence requirements in a moment, perhaps, but we can't be complacent. Firefighting is inherently dangerous, so we need that culture of safety. We need a culture of accountability. Obviously, at the Chief Fire Officer role, setting that tone, but at every level throughout the organisation, pulling together. And finally, we need that culture of continuous improvement, which links to, you know, the outcomes that we've got around our inspection are excellent at the moment. And I've been lucky to be part of 3 previous inspections, which has seen that journey of improvement. But what I'm trying to say is I'm not complacent. And with these external challenges, we need to keep seeing that improvement. So my priorities and key areas around building trusting teams, delivering that vision, continuing to learn, I think will stand us in the best possible state that we can to meet those challenges and actually take some of those opportunities that they will provide as well. But that's probably a different topic. So again, I'll pause there. Thank you.
Councillor Grumpsby.
Thank you. Well, firstly, I have to say that a very impressive and confident pitch so far. So thank you. Well done, Glyn. My question is, could you give an example or examples of where you have worked collaboratively with other partners to achieve a shared vision?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. If I go back to 2015 when I was appointed as the Director of Prevention and Protection for Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, that really became my bread and butter in terms of working with partnerships. So I was representative on the health and wellbeing boards for the county and the city, representative at national level with the fire and health agenda, and we were able to really develop the way that firefighters and operational crews go into homes, they fit smoke alarms, they do the checks, they'll pick up referrals for things like safeguarding and other vulnerabilities. So I've had a broad range of sort of collaboration. But if I could just give you 2 very short examples, which are probably very different as well. Certainly the one I feel that has made the most impact from personal involvement is around fitting the right type of smoke alarms. And this is something that I got into in 2015 at a national level, which was making sure that our homes are fitted with optical smoke alarms, not ionisation, because optical smoke alarms at the time were much better at detecting a broader range of fires than an ionisation, which was very good at going off if the toaster was burning bread. And they've got the place. But we were able to work with the manufacturers and the National Fire Chiefs Council to significantly switch the programme to fitting optical detectors, which went beyond Staffordshire at a national level. Now, with prevention, it's obviously very difficult to know how many lives that would have saved, but that was significant. So building with that ethos, I've already moved quickly into the protection world, and I introduced what was called a community sprinkler project within Staffordshire, which was focused on fitting our high-rise buildings back then, or tall buildings that are residential, with sprinklers. And we managed to achieve 19 of those buildings fitted by working conjointly with councils, most notably Stoke-on-Trent and Tamworth at the time, but then working with housing providers with a little bit of match funding and pump priming and the use of our fire engineering and experts to get in there and fit these sprinklers. That protected the residents, but equally from me, thinking about firefighters and knowing how difficult it is to deal with a high-rise building fire, it protected our firefighters too. So two examples there of that sort of upstream prevention. I'll just pick one slight different one, which is more operational response, and that is working with the police colleagues here in Staffordshire. I've been privileged to work with a number of their executive roles over the years, and one thing that we did jointly was with the police and the ambulance service, we got our firefighters responding to properties where there was intelligence that there was someone who needed care or urgent medical assistance, but the police or the ambulance couldn't gain entry, whereas clearly firefighters can. And that's been running ever since the collaboration was brought in, I want to say about 2018. And so that is saving lives on a daily basis in our county. And then we've added to that a response to high-risk missing persons, all negotiated in through careful consideration with the trade unions and the workforce, but that sort of approach for collaboration saving lives on a daily basis. So hopefully that's enough of an example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And may I ask Councillor Merrick, please?
Well, welcome, Glyn. Just like to say extremely good responses so far, but now from South Staffordshire we get back to the nitty-gritty. I'd just like to ask you, Glyn, how would you have approached a situation where you are in disagreement with a senior colleague? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. And if I take us back to my approach, I pride myself on being people-focused, so I welcome disagreements, and I've always welcomed challenge. And I'm acutely aware, particularly the more senior or particularly when you're in a group setting, one of the dangers is groupthink, that people may go along with what you're suggesting, and actually they may not believe that, or they may have other ideas that they may be perhaps not as confident in bringing forward. So I actively seek challenges through a number of different theoretical approaches which I've learned over the time. But I did mention industrial relations. I was fortunate enough to get schooled through Keele University and obtain a Masters in Industrial Relations. That's all about joint problem solving. That is all about understanding the perspectives at play. So again, that's something that I really instill in the leaders within the service. I actually teach to supervisory managers and middle managers around industrial relations and the value of that. So I absolutely practice what I preach is what I am saying, Councillor. I welcome challenge. And I guess, you know, it would depend upon what the disagreement is over, because if we were talking about something that I saw as a fundamentally safety issue on an incident ground, then that might need a different response to debating a choice around a particular option in a meeting. So you need to be flexible, I think, in my position, but hopefully I've given an insight in the way that I like to kind of do business is very much collaboratively, seeking challenge, perspectives, and testing them all the way through. Thank you.
Thank you, Glyn.
Thank you, Glyn.
And we have another question coming from Councillor Atkins.
Thank you, Chair. How will you ensure that the service you lead is as diverse as the community that you represent?
Thank you, Councillor. That's a really good question for any fire and rescue service, because I don't mind being open in suggesting that each fire and rescue service needs to go some way on this agenda at being more representative of the communities. But I have to say, I'm enthused by the recent results that we've seen through our recruitment programmes, the positive action that our officers undertake, and the real effort around community engagement that we have through a range of interventions for people visiting fire stations, to our community open days, to the way that our firefighters and support staff actually seek to go and engage with underrepresented groups. Those green shoots that I've witnessed, I've recently introduced a recruits course for our cohorts of on-call firefighters, and 40% of those new candidates starting those roles were actually women. So really good to see that, and it's taken its time to come through. We've now got a number of staff networks that have been developed within Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service. So again, they can act as a real good conduit to that community engagement to promote interest in joining the service. But they also educate people like me who've been in the service for 30 years and may need to think differently about how we can increase diversity within the fire and rescue service. And that, of course, is not just visible difference. That's diversity of thought and thinking, because that can all bring different sort of innovation into the service, which is going to be key in trying to build that smarter, stronger service going forward. If I could just finish, Councillor, with something that I see as a real opportunity in this space, and that is the knowledge that in the next 10 years in Staffordshire Fire and Rescue Service, 50% of the workforce will be retiring. That's going to bring in of itself some challenge because of skills and experience obviously leaving, but what an opportunity to almost reset the culture or rebuild that culture going forward and bring in more diverse people into the service to make us stronger for the future. And that's what I want to make sure that we do. Thank you.
Now, I was having a conversation in the Staffordshire Moorlands in a committee meeting, and we were talking about women in non-traditional roles. And a woman councillor, who I won't name, said, well, a woman couldn't take a 20-stone man out of a burning building. Now, how do you challenge that sort of perception from people in the community?
I'd be more than happy to speak to anybody in the community, because I think I've alluded to the team ethos within the Fire and Rescue Service. So, you know, we send people to work together as teams to, you know, effect rescues and deal with whatever's thrown at them. And we've got a number of fantastic women colleagues who are fully operational now, performing that sort of a role every day, and they are real role models to certainly women in the community, and young girls even aspiring to be firefighters of the future. So absolutely, it is possible, and they're some of the best firefighting colleagues that I've worked with.
I certainly found that disappointing when we were one of the first services to have a chief fire officer who was a woman.
I think we've gone around the table. Do you, Councillor Walker?
Thank you, Chair. Just an observation. I really well, I mean, maybe I should declare an interest because I'm a trade union member as well. I really welcome your comments on industrial relations, because I think that's fundamental to workforce issues. I mean, I've seen myself, some of the attacks and that on firefighters is totally unacceptable. Building that relationship can only have a positive effect, I think, as well. So I do welcome your comments on that. I'm aware of other avenues or other political spheres discussing potentially abolishing the defined pension benefit schemes, which would be a no-no. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on how important that is for firefighters who work so hard all their lives to retain the benefits of a defined benefit pension scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor, a really good question. Something that I think is hugely important. I would have to declare an interest myself because I would be one of those individuals affected by that. But I think it is really, if I was sort of stood to one side, and I've got quite strong pension knowledge because I've been the pension board chair of the service for the last 10 years, reporting into the Commissioner as a scheme manager. So I do understand the complexities around that. But what I could tell you is firefighters feel really strongly about their terms, their conditions, pensions, pay. Now, if there are changes to national level around any of that, that can clearly have an impact when we've got a highly unionised sector. And I have experienced that on 2 occasions before, where it's culminated in industrial action at a national and local level, and it's really difficult. So what I can do in regard to that is obviously try to influence at ministerial level and through the LGA as well in the national roles that I have to raise those issues and concerns before any decisions are possibly made in the future. But clearly, if decisions are made, then my role is all around protecting Staffordshire on Stoke-on-Trent during that particular sort of time, if that was to come to a head. But I can say this as well, Councillor, just that reassurance around industrial relations. We work really hard locally around all of those trade unions having access to myself and the current chief on a regular basis. They have a seat at all of our governance boards, and they have a really important voice in informing our decisions. And some of the best decisions come from the trade unions. So it's really important to me to have those productive and healthy relationships with all trade unions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to add? Glenn, I am quite content in terms of the questions that we've asked and certainly the responses. We are now going to obviously adjourn to deliberate where we're at, and so I'll adjourn this meeting and we'll come back when we've done so. So at the moment I formally close the meeting and we'll reopen. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, and formally open this part of the confirmation hearing. And we've had our discussions. I think we know where we're going. So, but I'd like to obviously ask for a formal proposal from the floor.
Yeah, I would like to propose that we confirm Glenn in his appointment as Chief Fire Officer.
Atkins, and do I have a seconder?
I'm absolutely happy to support Councillor Atkins. Yeah, very good appointment.
And could I ask a show of hands for those that are in favour? And that is unanimous in terms of all present. Welcome aboard. It goes obviously that we felt there was real passion, confidence, determination and everything that I think is required with the job, and we wish you well, Glenn, and it's not an easy one, I'm sure, but we wish you well. Would you like to just come out?
Only just to say thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioner, you were happy with your Chief Fire Officer?
More than happy. You've seen what a real talent, and we're very lucky to have Glyn. I think 2nd of June is the day he will formally take over from Rob. So Rob's still got some work to do, but they're a great team working together. I couldn't be more delighted, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and obviously we'll hear from Rob, but at this point we wish him well as in terms of his retirement, well deserved, I'm absolutely sure of. So that concludes our business today, and I formally close the meeting at 12:07, and thank you all for your attendance. Thank you.